The Keening by Éile Fay. An excerpt from the first chapter, Death Past. In a waking dream, a shadow swept over my bedroom wall, spilling a faint chill as it moved. Death passed our house. I knew this before I caught sight of the dawn mist creeping in from the sea, crawling over the dank spring grass, or heard the faint keening of the mourners on the road. Without looking, I saw the slow, steady march of loved ones shepherding another coffin to the grave. As the trees swallowed the morning song's echo, I buried myself in my blankets and conjured memories of a long-ago 4th of July picnic to play them like a Nickelodeon show on the screen in my head. The Myers boys throwing a football along the beach as Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Wendell carried picnic baskets, so filled with food that the load crushed their long skirts against their legs. I could hear laughter, shouts, and fabric snapping in the wind as Pastor Dempsey spread a tablecloth over his end of a table, made of every spare lawn table, card table, and workbench in town. I could taste the sandy sweetness of Aunt Guylane's cotton candy on my lips, hear my friend Jake reciting Longfellow's Paul Revere's Ride at a gallop. When I opened my eyes to let in the real world, the sun had gone into full bloom, burning away the fog. As I got dressed, I imagined I'd pushed all that sorrow away, but death came inside that morning, travelling the hallway down the middle of our house like an ash-barren wind. It stopped in the sudden brightness of the front stoop. My breath caught in my lungs until the shadow sped out into the front yard, to be swallowed by the sun. Convincing myself I'd been playing a child's game of finding spirits in sleepy shadows, I stepped outside. The sun made the wet grass gleam, but it didn't warm the sea winds of early spring. The chill turned me to the house and back to visions of that shadow I'd seen lingering there, which put me in mind of a monster of my childhood, the dusky spirit that rose from the floor of my bedroom, whispering fierce and horrible things. I tried to keep a lantern burning next to my bed to hold it at bay, but Potter wouldn't let me. He must have seen a light when he came up from the workshop down below on the beach. From outside, he say, "Out with the light, Liza. Fires burn in your sleep." Words troubled Potter. They never fell together as he expected, but I took his meaning and put the lantern out, covering my head with the quilt so I couldn't see the shadow spirit rise out of the floor. What little rituals could I perform now to trick my mind into feeling safe? In those shadow-fearing days, Mater helped me send my boats to sea. We built ourselves a tiny boat from the wooden boxes her spools of thread came in. Our mast a stick, the sail a small scrap of fabric. Mater'd hand me the boat, saying, "Put your fear down in the hold, Liza. Trap it in with prayer, then send it out to sea. It'll never come back." I'd squeeze that little boat in my hands, praying hard. Dear Lord, don't let the shadow monster eat me. A laughable thought today, but my child mind took it as a true tale. I set that boat in the water and gave it a shove, the tide bobbing it out over the ocean. Over the years, a tiny fleet of my fears set sail into the sea. Even though my Mater didn't follow the Bradley line in taking up fishing, we Laytons seemed pretty tied to boats. Mater and I had our fear boats, and Potter sent his sculptures to sea. Potter'd shiver if someone spoke of selling one. They need to move on now, he'd say, and for each new face he built a boat and pushed it out into the tide at dawn. From the cliff just beyond our front door, I watched the waves ripple to the horizon, catching sight of the red-tiled roof of the library Mr. Carnegie built on Kern Avenue. With town just on the coast, the grassy bluffs looked like a woolly old blanket stretched out between our place and Kinsley Cove. Hearing the bells of St. Gregory's chime in morning, I found myself thinking that our town could fill the cove with an armada of ships, each one filled with a prayer holding down the fear of death. Tiny black sails dotting the water like a teeming school of fish.